Today's Daily Read Aloud is Coco and the Bee, written by Laura Bunting, illustrated by Nikki Johnston. Coco stared at the soil. She felt very unsure about touching it. What if there were worms? But as soon as she pushed her paws into the cool, dark earth, she purred joyfully. It felt wonderful. "Now you're ready to sprinkle some seeds into the little holes you've made," said Daddy Cat. Coco stared at the tiny specks in her paw. "There are really strawberries in here?" "Sure are," said Daddy Cat. "Even our big apple tree started as a little seed." The idea that a tree as tall as their house, as well as all of its apples, could somehow be bundled up inside a seed made Coco dizzy with wonderment. "Inside each seed is a set of instructions telling it how to grow bigger. Your seeds will follow instructions to become strawberries, while my seeds will follow different instructions to grow into pumpkins," added Daddy Cat. "Meow!" Coco did not like pumpkin. She whispered to her seeds just in case. "You are not pumpkins." Coco covered her strawberry seeds gently with soil. Then she blew them a kiss. "Love is a secret ingredient for extra juicy strawberries," she said. "As is remembering to water them every day," said Daddy Cat with a chuckle. He handed Coco a watering can. "Congratulations, kitten, you're a gardener now." Coco thought gardener seemed such an ordinary word for something as extraordinary as this. Making delicious food appear out of small brown specks felt much closer to magic. Each day, and often twice a day, Coco ran to her garden to check on her strawberries. For many days, she was greeted by the same disappointing nothingness. But then, one morning, a tiny sprout, a longer stem, little leaves, some buds, and just this very morning, lots of flowers. Coco clapped her paws happily. "I grew flowers," she cried. Then, "Wait! They were meant to be strawberries." Daddy Cat laughed. "Those flowers are the strawberries," he called as he wandered off to fetch his gloves. "At least, they soon will be." Coco inspected the flowers curiously when she heard Mama Cat calling. "Coco, come in and get cleaned up. I've just invited the kitten from next door over for a play." This was exciting news. Coco hadn't even realized another kitten lived nearby. In Tabby Valley, your next-door neighbors didn't live next door at all, but rather a good few fields away. She ran inside, changed into her favorite tutu, and grabbed her clipboard. Coco loved writing lists, and a perfect playdate would need a perfect plan. She wrote down all the things she would do with her new friend. My perfect playdate list. 1. Dress-ups. 2. Crafts. 3. Dancing. 4. Play fairies and unicorns. 5. Tea party. "Wash your whiskers, kitten," said Mama Cat. "Max will be here any minute." "Max," said Coco, "the kitten you've invited over is a boy?" "Yes," said Mummy Cat. Coco looked at her perfect playdate list again. "But a boy won't want to do any of these things," she cried. "You don't know that," said Mama Cat, "and maybe Max will have some fun ideas too." "Like licking toads and fighting lizards with swords," said Daddy Cat teasingly. "That's all we boys like doing." "Daddy," said Coco crossly. She was not in the mood for jokes. She scrunched up her list and went and sat by her garden bed, imagining all the terrible boy things Max would rather play. Her tail flicked anxiously. And that's when she heard it. Bzz, bzz, bzz. A bee buzzed straight past Coco's ear and landed on one of her flowers. "Shoo! Shoo, you poorful little creature!" cried Coco as she pounced behind a tree. "Leave my strawberries alone!" Coco still hadn't forgiven bees after a swarm of them once mistook her floral leotard for a flower patch and chased her around the city. "Well, would you like strawberries, or would you like me to buzz off, dear?" asked the bee. "Because I'm afraid you can't have both." For a moment, Coco's curiosity grew greater than her fear. "Oh, strawberries, please," she said quietly. Then Coco watched as the bee hovered over each of her flowers. "Flowers to strawberries I create, buzz, shake, pollinate," chanted the bee. Then glittering golden dust shimmered from the bee's fuzzy body, landing right in the center of each of her flowers. "Wow!" whispered Coco, mesmerized by the magical display. "Thank you, little food fairy." "My pleasure," said the bee. "You're not so scary when you're on your own, but where's the rest of your hive?" asked Coco, looking around nervously. "I don't live in a hive," said the bee, sounding slightly offended. "I'm a solitary bee. I live alone in an underground burrow, just me and my babies." "Ha!" laughed Coco. She thought the bee was joking. "A burrow?" Coco repeated. "Rabbits live in burrows, not bees." But the bee stared back at her seriously. "You're thinking of honeybees, dear," she tutted. "You see, that's the problem when you group lots of things together. You start to think that they're all the same. But there are many kinds of bees and we're all different." Coco was amazed. "Look, I'll show you," said the bee, leading Coco around the garden. It was true. Bees came in all shapes, sizes, and colours. Some lived in hives with thousands of other bees, but many lived alone or in small bee villages. Some dug underground burrows. Others lived in tiny cracks in logs, while some bees could even drill holes in trees. Some made honey, but many made only enough to feed their babies. There were even bees that didn't have a sting at all. "We share the name, but that doesn't mean we're all the same," said the bee. "Some of us are more like butterflies than bees. Did you know a few of us even like to dance?" "Really?" said Coco. "Ballet or jazz?" The bee laughed, buzzing quietly like an elf's lawnmower. "It's called a waggle dance. See, that honey bee? She's found a lovely new patch of flowers. When she gets back to the hive, she'll do her dance, which directs the other bees back to these flowers." Coco really wanted to see a waggle dance, but she heard Mama Cat calling, "Coco, Max is here." "I have to go," said Coco sadly, her tail twitching again. "My mum is making me play with a boy today." "What's wrong with boys?" said the bee. "They're all," started Coco, but then she remembered all the different bees in her garden and decided to stop. I guess I'd better go find out," she added. Coco greeted Max awkwardly. "Hello," she said, feeling quite unsure what to suggest they do. "Do you want to go play in the woods?" asked Max brightly. "Okay," said Coco. They raced each other down the big grassy slope to the woods at the bottom of the garden. "Oh, you have a stream too," said Max. "It must be the same one that runs through our place. Do you want to make some boats?" Before Coco knew it, they were in her craft cabin with armfuls of leaves, sticks, bark, and flowers. Max taught Coco how to make boats and rafts and canoes. Coco taught Max how to make a leaf crown, flower fairies, and pinecone bees, a flower fairy's preferred pet. Back at the stream, they raced their boats down the rapids and built a kingdom for their flower fairies, stick forts, rock caves, and bridges, moss beds, and toadstool tables. Suddenly, a lizard on the other side of the stream appeared. "Oh, no! Evil Lizard King!" shouted Max. "Save the fairies! Quick, up this tree!" he cried. No, thank you. I don't climb trees, especially not in a tutu, said Coco. You're braver than me. Just then, Max heard a buzzing sound. Coco's strawberry bee was hovering above the flower fairy he was holding. He meowed the most terrified meow. Bee! Bee! He cried. It's okay, said Coco. She's friendly. There's no such thing as a friendly bee, wailed Max. Help! Without time to think, Coco scampered up the tree. It felt terrifying and wonderful all at the same time. At the top, she let the bee rest on her finger and told Max everything she had learned about her buzzy new friends. Max hugged Coco. Thank you, he said. I thought I was going to fall. You're braver than me. They sat quietly for a while, admiring the kingdom they had created together below. Do you like reading? Asked Max. I love reading, said Coco. Books were currently number one on her favourite things list. Max reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. These are the books I'd like to read next, he said. You write lists, beamed Coco. She hugged Max tightly and said, You're a good boy. Then she realised how silly that sounded, and they both laughed until their bellies hurt. Coco realised boy was only one thing that made Max who he was. He was also kind and funny, creative and interesting, and many more things Coco was yet to discover. The afternoon whizzed by in a blur of fun, as did many afternoons after that. Coco thought their friendship couldn't possibly get any sweeter, until one day it did. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button. We have a new story every day, so make sure you subscribe. The end.